Sick of television being a one-way street?
Milan are unbeaten in the Italian First Division as we come to the 20th round of matches, but Juventus, who stands second, 5 points behind Milan, so nearly got the better of them in only their third game. They led through Pierluigi Casiraghi until the final seconds. But then, a deflection by Massimo Carrera sent the ball into his own net. An amazing finish. It was cruel for Carrera, but marvellous for Milan. And since September, they've rarely been in danger of defeat. Only this freak goal stopped a Juventus win, a fact that will sustain them for today's return, a confrontation which could decide the championship. Welcome to San Siro, where defeat for Juventus, well, it will mean just that, the destination of the championship trophy here in Milan. Such has been Milan's supremacy. They've shaken off all the challengers except today's opponents. Well, let's have a look at the Milan side for this crucial game. The goalkeeper, very much the first choice these days, Sebastiano Rossi. Mauro Tassotti, his 12th season here. Paolo Maldini will play at left-back. Demetrio Albertini has overcome a sprained ankle to play today. Costa Curta and Baresi, the two central defenders. Evani is preferred to Donadoni in midfield, then the Dutch trio, Frank Rijkaard, Marco van Basten and Ruud Gullit. And Daniele Massaro also back after scoring as a substitute away at Cagliari last weekend. As for Juventus, 34-year-old Stefano Tacconi in goal. Carrera, that own goal culprit against Milan. De Agostini back after missing 3 matches. Reuter and Kohler, the two Germans. Brazil's Julio Cesar. Giancarlo Marocchi in midfield, along with Roberto Gallia. Toto Schillaci returns after a back injury. Roberto Baggio, a hat-trick against Foggia last week. And Pierluigi Casiraghi, the scorer against Milan in Turin. The referee is Fabio Baldas, a great responsibility on him. The stadium absolutely packed. Spectators standing in the aisles, straining for a view. The areas behind the seats crammed with bodies. Everybody wants to be here for the match that, well, it could decide the outcome of the season, even this early in the season. If Milan were to beat Juventus here, their 5-point lead already would be stretched to 7. And alongside me, Trevor Francis, I know feels like me it's a privilege to be bringing this match to you. Trevor, you know the Italian mentality so well. How do you think the two teams will approach their task?
I think we're all wondering just how Juventus is going to approach this game. There are many who feel that they must win it, but I think that it's more important that they don't lose the game. But we mustn't just leave it there for a second.
As Massaro chases in and Tacconi comes out to claim comfortably.
What we mustn't forget, of course, is that Milan, with 5 points advantage, if they were to draw, that would be a good result for them.
Well, Milan unbeaten in their 19 games, and the closest they came to defeat, and that was very close indeed when they were in Turin early in the season, and Juventus were edging towards a 1-0 victory until Carrera, who's out here wearing the number 2 for Juventus today, deflected in that own goal, which, well, had it not gone in, who knows how the season would have shaped up. Here's Massaro. Taking over is Albertini and Rijkaard. Amerigo Evani's come in on the left-hand side for Milan today, replacing Donadoni. Massaro back in the attack, as you've seen already. Simone play, oh my word, a bounce there to to indicate the firmness of this pitch, which, given the state it's been in the past, well, they've obviously worked very hard on it for a game of this importance. Here is Carrera, the culprit with that own goal. Schillaci, who's come back into the side for Juventus today, having had a back problem. Julio Cesar, Massaro on him in a flash. And then Van Basten intervening for Milan. Here's Hullet. It really is the type of match that brings the best out of the great players. But there are plenty of those on both sides. Hullet. The temperature around 6 degrees here. Milan does get the rigours of the Italian winter. Luigi De Agostini has returned after missing a couple of games with a foot problem. And that made him flinch a bit from Tassotti. Juventus have not done well in this fixture in recent years. You have to go back 8 years to find their last victory against Milan at San Siro. Here's Ivani. Massaro and Van Basten waiting in the centre, making their move now. Hullet's coming in as well. Oh, and Van Basten's got a great chance! And Milan have scored! In the 4th minute. And though a draw might be a good result for them today, they've clearly come out here to try and win the game and get an even firmer grip on the Italian season.
Well, that's dreadful defending by Juventus. As the ball gets played in from Ivani, you see De Agostini and Kohler going for the same ball, leaving Van Basten unmarked, and he doesn't miss those sort of chances.
Juventus are behind on a day when defeat really is incomprehensible for them, and they're now looking very shaky indeed. Here's Massaro, and doing the right thing really, trying to prey on the nerves and prey on the shock that Juventus must be feeling at the moment.
Well, that's a terrible start for Juventus. It all started really from Carrera. I feel he should have worked harder to prevent the cross coming in from Ivani. It was quite obvious what Ivani was looking to do, get onto his favourite left foot, get that cross in. Should have prevented the cross.
But here is Gallia, and the whistle's gone. And Sebastiano Rossi, who perhaps wasn't aware of that, and is the only non-international. He saw the handball there that the whistle went for. Rossi, the only non-international in the Milan side, made a good save in any case.
Just wondering, was it handball, or was it because Casaraghi was stood in an offside position? And if that was the case, that was unfortunate for Gallia, because he showed good aggressive play.
Well, I was just going on the referee's indication. He tapped his hand before we saw that replay. Well, Van Basten's had problems with Jurgen Kohler in the past, playing for Milan and playing for Holland against West Germany as it was then in the World Cup. But Kohler, part of the team that caused the error, or were responsible for the error that led to Van Basten's goal.
Oh, most definitely. I think the blame has to be attached to Kohler. He was obviously detailed before the game to try and get as close as he can to Van Basten. And really, he was just nowhere near Van Basten when the cross came over from Ivani.
Well, Baggio must be used to that type of attention. But psychologically, it's another positive moment for Milan to see the furrowed brow of perhaps the one opponent who could really turn the tide. Here he is, Roberto Baggio. First chance to really express himself with the ball. Reuter. Juventus Oh, almost a similar type of defensive error to the one that happened at the other end. Here's Gallia. Milan had enough players around then and didn't deal with Reuter's cross very decisively. Marocchi. Casiraghis had to check back his run offside. Here's Baggio. Navani, there's such a good shape to the way Milan play. The wide midfield men help the fullbacks out so often, as Navani did then on Maldini's side of the pitch.
It's interesting to see just how quickly Milan get players forward. Once Baggio gave the ball away, it's a bad pass. Ivani got the interception, and immediately there were 4 or 5 players sprinting forward to support the man in possession. That's good play.
Frank Rijkaard wasn't here when the championship was last won in 1988, and Van Basten played, I think, only 11 games that season. He had a serious ankle problem, so you can understand their appetite. Gullit, though, was a major force in what was his first season in Italy. Is this going to be his last? Is he going to finish as he started, with a championship memento? There'll be a lot of speculation about that. But for the moment, it's a corner with 24 minutes gone. Milan 1, Juventus 0. Ivani to take it. Oh, and Tacconi was deceived by the flick, and Gullit was roaring in. We've seen so often Milan's mastery at set plays, and Juventus were unnerved and very nearly unhinged again then.
What has become quite clear in Italy is that defences, they don't have an answer to Maldini when he goes forward. We saw the opening goal against Napoli a few weeks ago when he stole in and scored a great opening goal for Milan. That was a flick on there at the near post, and Juventus were lucky to survive.
And they might be lucky to survive here. This is Albertini. Well, for a 20-year-old then, in arguably the biggest club match he's ever played in, maybe he just didn't approach that in quite the relaxed frame of mind that he would have liked to have exhibited. The ball was bouncing awkwardly, but it was a rather tame conclusion for Milan. Albertini again goes down over his own player, I think.
Well, that was an excellent chance for Milan. Albertini actually approached it like a player who doesn't score many goals. I just don't know exactly what he was trying to do. I got the feeling he was trying to play it across the goal, when really he'd have been better shooting for goal.
Baggio, now Gallia. Baggio trying to make another angle, and Gallia likewise. And Casiraghi! Wonderful equalizer. After 26 minutes, really out of the blue, Pierluigi Casiraghi with a venomous volley. And we expected quality here, and my word, we're getting it.
Well, it's a magnificent goal. Great pass from Gallia. What a volley.
Well, he lined it up, got his body position right, and it was perfection. Trapattoni keeps his appreciation pretty much under control, but it was a moment to stun the massive Milan support here, and the players wearing the red and black stripes as well. Gullit trying to create an instant response. It's well wide from Rijkaard, whose contact there was in direct contrast to the type that Casiraghi manufactured at the other end. Sometimes major matches of this status and stature do end in anticlimax. That is undoubtedly not happening here in the San Siro. Off goes Massaro. And Milan pushing players quickly into the centre. Well, the only disappointment for Casiraghi, only 3,000 of his own supporters here to pay tribute to it. It wasn't greeted with the type of ovation it would have been in Turin. But for Juventus, absolutely what was required. Evani. So, at 1-1. It's a free kick to Milan. Well, any Juventus supporters anywhere in the world who get a sight of a goal as cleanly hit as that, well, if you have it on video, you play it over and over again, and I'm sure in the Casiraghi household they'll be looking for the rewind button over the next few days. "15 minutes to go to half-time. Oh, and Hullet! He didn't hit it at all well. It flew across the face of the goal, and he pulled away, rather like Casiraghi had done, to get away from his markers, and the angle was more difficult.
It wasn't a good volley by Rijkaard, but I'm surprised at the Juventus marking.
Pulling out again, they've gone with him this time. And Tassotti concedes the throw. Last year, Hullet was a scorer here in the 2-0 win when Ancelotti also hit a memorable volley. Milan did the double over Juventus last season. Evani gets to it here against his opposite number, Marocchi. And he's got into a position for another cross. He has been out of the side recently, and Donadoni's played on the left at times. And of course, Donadoni has his own attributes, but there is that natural left-sidedness of Alberigo Evani that is so appealing when you look for the symmetry of the team. Maldini! Again, head and shoulders above those trying to prevent him reaching the ball. Well, he's got a natural spring, but he's also quite prepared to put his head in where he might get hurt. Who's going to get to this one? It's Hullet. Evani. And Massaro, the flag is up. Of all the Milan players, Massaro has the instant acceleration to feed on anything that rolls into the penalty area, even something perhaps that wasn't part of the strategy then. But he'd gone just too soon, said the linesman. Casiraghi has pulled out to this near side. Well, Gallia clipped it perfectly for Casiraghi's volley, but that, over a slightly greater distance, is just too ambitious for him. He's had a good season, Gallia. I think there were those at the start who felt he might just be a squad man this season, but he's asserted himself and they've continually kept room for him. Maldini. We're in stoppage time now at the end of a first half that has not disappointed. Rijkaard. Juventus, who started it so sloppily, are finishing it with fire back in their bellies. Gullit. Van Basten. Well, something of a high volley. Only those blessed with great technique even attempt it. Maybe a waist-high volley, and he came close. Typical of the half, Trevor. Great technique.
Yes, good vision there from Gullit. Played a good ball in. Carrera got wrong side of Van Basten. Just given the opportunity to get in with a shot. Would have been once again another fantastic goal. Van Basten tried the volley, just couldn't quite execute it.
Well, it's been a marvellous first half. It started superbly for Milan, and against Trapattoni's team, to go a goal behind so early, it ruined so much of their strategy, I'm sure, but they've survived the difficulties and, of course, embroidered their improvement with a goal that will live long in the memory from Pierluigi Casiraghi. And since then, Juventus have very much looked in the match, and one wonders what the second half will bring. Milan won, Juventus won at half-time. Milan start the second half, and Juventus, having really come alive as the first half developed, will want to begin the second period with more conviction than they started the match. And if they do, well, they could still come away with a victory here, which would be a wonderful impetus for them over the remainder of the season. Juventus have some fairly straightforward matches coming up. There's Kohler with a none too straightforward challenge on Van Basten. Milan, for their part, are away in Florence to Fiorentina, where Juventus have already lost, remember, and then away to Genoa, who are by no means easy to beat in the next couple of weeks. So the season isn't cut and dried yet, not by any means. Evani to Albertini. He certainly hasn't been at his best in this game, and maybe it's a case of a young player finding a match of this magnitude. Well, it's so different for him, and perhaps slightly freezing on the day.
Yes, I think that's a fair point. I feel that in midfield, the central two of Rijkaard and Albertini have struggled somewhat, but I do think that on the left-hand side with Evani giving good balance, he's provided a good service for the front two. I just wish that Gullit could get a little bit more of the ball. I think he's been a bit of a disappointment in the first half, and I'm just wondering if Capello would be brave enough to bring Gullit off and put on the substitute Donadoni. He's a player that I admire very much and perhaps could cause problems like Ivani's doing on the left-hand side.
Yes, it was Ivani, of course, who created Van Basten's goal. Maldini in quickly. Massaro first to it as well for Milan, but it's back with Baresi. Maldini again. Van Basten gets it. Oh, against the post from Massaro. Juventus would have protested even more vehemently had it been a goal as to whether Van Basten had fouled. They were still trying to have their say as Milan got on with the game. Baresi. Well, at an identical time at the start of the second half to that which in the first half where Van Basten scored, Massaro came in on the cross and knocked it against Sacconi's right-hand post.
Yes, I can fully understand the Juventus players' complaints to the referee, because I felt just as they did that Van Basten gave a little nudge to Carrera before he crossed the ball to Massaro. Referee surprisingly allowed play to continue.
almost, and to set off 4 without any real hope of doing much more than making Taccone come up with a decision a little quicker than he otherwise needed to do. Colette. Colette keeping the width on the right-hand side. Massaro jumping with Carrera. Schillaci. Juventus, as we have seen, although territorially having to fight in their own half. Here's Massaro aiming for the far side of the goal across the dive of Taccone. Milan making the running, making the openings. Juventus, the team with talent to grab a goal out of very little. For what was regarded by the referee as a cynical intervention. Well, when you see it like that, you can't really blame the referee.
A little bit unfortunate, Casiraghi, because in the last 5 minutes there's been 1 or 2 nasty little fouls from Juventus players, and he's just unfortunate that it was his turn to go into the book. I think the referee wanted to make a point, and it's Casiraghi who suffered.
Colette's cross, Maldini recognising something to fight for in the air, which he loves to do, and Schillaci having to come back to strengthen the midfield. Another free kick to Milan. It's barometer at the moment as to where the traffic is going. Colette. Oh, and it's flacked it for Massaro. And he looks for divine intervention to try and spare his blushes. He'd run in well. In fact, the ball didn't quite come in front of him.
Well, I just wondered if he took it with his wrong foot. He showed great anticipation to get on the end of the deflected shot from Hullet. But I felt he should have hit it with his left foot rather than his right.
Well, Tacaneo's coming on. And it is Schillaci who is replaced. A little reluctant to leave. I'm sure when you start a career in the professional game, this is the type of match you're aiming to play in the mature years of your career. And Schillaci came off then with the look of a player whose pleasure was rather cut short. Maldini. All this being staged before a packed house of 85,000 spectators, all of whom, as I'm sure you are riveted to the action. Cavani, Baresi. He's got it through to Massaro, kept his balance well. Cavani, excellent cross for Van Basten to fight for, and he didn't pull out of a situation that was always likely to give him a bit of a headache. And it is a corner. Just under half an hour to go. Ivani takes the corner and makes it a deep one. Albertini. Well, he has had a marvellous season, Demetrio Albertini. To come really from nowhere. He has been a Milan player for a couple of years. He did get one league appearance as a 17-year-old. He's 20 now. But his blossoming would make him a candidate for Italy's Young Player of the Year. But you haven't seen him at his best in this match. Well, you sense now that the crowd are not going to be satisfied if Milan don't go for broke for a winner, because they're already well appraised of the fact that Juventus now are settling for containing. But like all teams in Italy, and they're of course a very good one, they'll realise the right moments to go forward. Perhaps there won't be too many of them, but one materialising here. And he wouldn't rule out them scoring again and becoming the first team this season to get 2 goals in a game against Milan. Di Canio with the corner. It's D'Agostini, deflected! Oh! Well, had that looped up and dropped into the net beyond the wrong-footed Rossi, it wouldn't have been a surprise. But it actually hit one of his own players. Baggio, I think it was. Now Van Basten. Well, it just had to realign his run, but there was ample space for that. Onto the scene comes Tassotti. For Hullet. He's got such strength. It was a high-class pass. Just needed slightly more weight on it, but it very nearly cut Juventus to ribbons on the far side.
Yes, you're right. It was a good, intelligent ball from Tassotti. Just perhaps another yard, and Juventus would have been in all sorts of trouble. But it was a good, intelligent ball, played in beyond the Juventus defence. That's where they don't want it.
Maldini by the near post. Important to keep an eye on him. And that's what Juventus are doing. Tassotti. Now Costa Curta. Baresi making himself available. All being staged in the Juventus half. Van Basten was highly optimistic. Oh, and Maldini couldn't track the ball down. This is what Juventus will hope to do. Catch Milan when they push forward. Casiraghi, who really is the only out-and-out attacker for Trapattoni's team now. Mistake by Reuter. Massaro, again the rhythm of the match not helped by what's underfoot. Hullet, straying from the right really for the first time. Here comes Ivani. The ball won cleanly and fairly and emphatically by Roberto Gallia. Still Milan, good spell for them. Juventus are being stretched here. Tassotti, is there going to be a goal for the home team at the end of it? Maybe a counter-attack from the away side. It's a free kick to Juventus. Di Canio was fouled.
Certainly absorbing stuff, isn't it? Great build-up play from Milan there. Hullet, you saw playing the ball into Van Basten, looking for support, got it from Ivani. Then you saw a fantastic challenge from Gallia. Risk giving away a penalty, but the challenge was absolutely perfect. It had to be.
D'Agostini. Juventus always look good when he's on the move forward down the left-hand side. Costa Curta, again the ball bouncing up. been a dry winter in Italy. Now it's a fiery moment. The referee has to just calm down. It's out of play. Casiraghi looking along the line and hoping to come in unmarked. He's got good positional awareness, as you saw on the goal. We've raved about the volley, but as Trevor quite rightly pointed out at the time, you have to be in a position to receive the ball like that, and Casiraghi did a lot of work before the ball came.
Yes, and once again there, it got in behind Maldini. The flag wasn't raised by the linesman.
Back it'll go from Reuter. That was a deflection off Marocchi that certainly suited Milan. Steered forward by Rijkaard for Evani. Possibilities here, still possibilities from the corner. More so when it's a corner to Milan. And certainly Julio Cesar is carrying that left arm. It's a deep one again from Evani. Costa Curta wants some width on the right-hand side. Tassotti supplied it and supplies the cross. Oh, that was an excellent opening. And Ruud Gullit, who's usually so accurate in the air. Well, Milan had players over then. Juventus were trying to catch them offside. They didn't push out well enough, and they should have been punished for it. Van Basten was caught then. 2 minutes to go. It all happened in Turin, crucially in the closing stages. Is it going to be the same at San Siro? Baresi was too anxious to get the ball under his control to spread it wide. Van Basten. Baresi on the burst. Pursued by Cola valiantly.
That was great running off the ball there from Baresi. From the moment he played it wide to Tassotti, he set off in support. The ball was played from Tassotti into Massaro. Good ball into the path of Baresi. And that was intelligent play. Quite clearly, Milan want to win this game. Even the last minute. Look how many players have got in the penalty box.
And most of them expert in the air. Rijkaard, Gullit couldn't get to it. Julio Cesar defending well again. Oh, and Van Basten tried to just pass it through a gap. He hoped into the corner of the net. Zacconi taking it all nonchalantly. Casiraghi happy to hoist it into Milan's territory. Well, we have to say, with 14 games still to go, but Juventus, if they survive these closing seconds, are still in the hunt. The odds are against them. Oh, and Zacconi with an expression that tells it all. That was very, very difficult to snare for him, but he did it. Well, he raised his eyebrows. Trevor, you raised yours as well. And it was the last moment of worry for Juventus, who've hung on here. Milan made the running, but they haven't made off with both points. And they will reflect on missed chances in the second half in particular. They had the perfect start, but Juventus had the character to withstand that. And they had the quality to equalise the early goal from Van Basten. with a terrific strike of their own from Casiraghi that I'm sure we'll show you over and over again. In the second half, Juventus settled for containment, and Milan pressed but didn't break through. The gap is still 5 points. Milan won, Juventus won. Our roundup begins with Lazio, who were fourth at the start of the day. They were away to Atalanta, who were anxious to make amends for last week's defeat by Ascoli. Piovanelli, too anxious perhaps. There's the key incident in the game. Biliardi into the back of Ruben Sosa, who kicked out in retaliation. A red card for Lazio's Uruguayan star 2 minutes before half-time. Lazio also without the injured Karl-Heinz Riedler, Neri his replacement, almost manufacturing a goal for the 10 men. Anxious moments now for Lazio's coach Dino Zoff, who perhaps expected the worst here and saw it happen. Sweden's Glenn Stromberg driving in the goal which settled the game with 66 minutes played. The Brazilian Bianchesi might have made it 2 with Lazio looking for offside. Atalanta's goalkeeper Ferron keeping a clean sheet. Only Atalanta's 3rd home win of the season. Lazio losing ground in the chase for UEFA Cup qualification. Parma performing more successfully in that respect, despite a nervy start against 3rd place Napoli. Careca caused most of the problems, Jorge Grun bringing him down. An all-Brazilian affair at the penalty. But Taffarel was outfoxed by Careca, his 11th goal of the season. Careca in the clear again here. Taffarel deliberately handling the ball. This is a controversial moment, but perhaps not preventing a goal-scoring situation. Di Chiara did legally, clearing from Laurent Blanc. But after 43 minutes, Minotti challenged Careca fairly but forcefully. And Careca was carried off with a damaged ankle. And with him went Napoli's hopes. A terrible pass here by Silenzi in his own penalty area led to Tarantino tripping Zorato. Alessandro Melli driving the penalty underneath Galli. 1-1 after 38 minutes. Well, only seconds to go in the game now, and for Grun, the Belgian international, the match finishing on a much happier note. His foul for the penalty forgotten, his header won the points for Parma, only Napoli's 3rd defeat. Luis Suarez, Inter's new coach, returned to Verona, where Spain in his charge were knocked out of the World Cup by Yugoslavia. Dragan Stojkovic, the star of that game, back in the Verona side, and when Desideri shot wide for Inter, the signs not too promising for Suarez. And Stojkovic started the move, which led to Rossi ramming in Radu Choyu's cross and setting off on a lengthy charge of celebration. Ricardo Ferri in particular had a frustrating time for Inter. His header stopped by Gregori, and then for deliberate handball, Ferri, who had been booked earlier in the game, was sent off. So Suarez's side down to 10 men, and Stojkovic a constant menace to them. But it took a great stop by Gregori to prevent Jürgen Klinsmann grabbing an equalizer here. This really a superb save. But Verona still in front and looking to extend the lead. Substitute Davide Pellegrini brought down by Zenga. And Stojkovic, it seemed, would add to the gloom of Luis Suarez. Perhaps a case at the penalty, though, of overconfidence. It didn't matter too much for Verona, who continued to occupy Zenga. Revenge for the match in Milan in September, when they conceded 4 penalties. More unhappy memories, though, of Verona for Luis Suarez. Roma had won in Cagliari in September. On course, it seemed, for a league double here. Di Mauro setting an optimistic mood. But coach Ottavio Bianchi was brought down to earth when he was sent from the bench. When Carbone hit a Cagliari post, it was the closest that Roma came to a goal. They continued to make the chances in the second half, but Cagliari coped just to show again the fighting spirit which helped them to avoid relegation last season. Andrea Carnevali mistiming this header. It was a disappointing afternoon's work from Roma. Torino did much better in a similar situation against Cremonese. Venturini sending Bresciani clear. No goal this time, but the tide very much running Torino's way. Their captain, Roberto Crivero, involved in carving out the chance, which was, in the end, expertly taken by Walter Casagrande. This, the best of Cremonese, a splendid solo run by Gian De Biaggi. How their spirits would have soared if the ball had gone in. In the second half, it seemed a question of how many for the home side. Bresciani guilty again after Rampula had knocked away Martin Vasquez's shot. And you'd have backed Casagrande here once he got his head to Policano's free kick. It took a penalty to give the scoreline a more realistic look. Bresciani brought down by Montofano. Enzo Schifo did the rest, and Torino move up now to 5th. Mixed fortunes for Bari at Sampdoria. The positive side, only their second away point of the season, and arguably their best goal so far. David Platt starting the attack, and Boban responding to Platt's initiative. His cross beautifully tucked away by Soda, leaving the Sampdoria goalkeeper Pagliuca perplexed at the pace of it all. The bad news, Platt's injury, a damaged ankle in this collision with Marco Lana. Lana, who broke Giampaolo's leg back in September. Platt off, and then a penalty conceded by Carbone on Lombardo. Mancini missed last week against Verona, but not this time. Bari battling for their first division lives, and Pagliuca stopping Fortunato from restoring their lead. Alberga back in the Bari goal, and a double save here, first from Mancini, and then as the ball is only partially cleared, a fearsome first-timer from Pietro Viercovod. Sampdoria unbeaten in 9 games now, but their eyes firmly on the European Cup. That win over Atalanta last week has put a new spring in the Ascoli step. With better finishing against Genoa, they might have had another victory. Maniero heading wide, and Genoa's goalkeeper Braglia at his best, turning aside an enterprising effort from Pergolizzi. Then he was tested by Trollio. Maniero again here, Braglia out bravely. In fact, it was a case of goalkeeping of high order at both ends. This is Laurieri taking off to stop Onorati scoring for Genoa. But signs now that the balance of power in the game was shifting. Eranio examining the Ascoli defence this time. And in the second half, it caved in. First of all, because of Bortolazzi's great belief in his long-range shooting. A goal that really knocked the stuffing out of Ascoli, who could do nothing to stop Onorati here. The defenders melting away as he runs half the length of the pitch. Carlos Aguilera presented with his 9th goal of the season. Ascoli 0, Genoa 2. Finally to Foggia, where there's such great value in entertainment and no shortfall against Fiorentina, who brought south an informed Gabriel Batistuta. Batistuta on the way to a hat-trick. But now watch out for Foggia. Baroni setting up Rambaudi, 1-1. Then Shalimov, the supplier for Baiano, who waltzed through 2 minutes later, his 9th of the season, taken with tremendous style. And then it was Shalimov himself. Maragini rooted to the spot. 3-1, 3 goals in 8 marvellous minutes for Foggia. But they do need extra insurance. If Petrescu had scored here, that might have done the trick. As it was, 7 minutes after half-time, Batistuta banged in his 2nd, and Fiorentina was still fighting. Foggia so committed to attack, Verona should have done better. And then Rambaudi threaded a perfect pass for Petrescu. That 4th goal still elusive. And again here, Signori the culprit this time. Batistuta was not so wasteful. His 3rd here in Foggia, his 6th goal in 3 games. It really was a one-man show for Fiorentina. Branca, who'd set up the equalizer, could have even won it for them. Foggia frittered away another great opportunity through Signori. Some game, 65 goals in Foggia's 20 matches this season. Foggia and Fiorentina stay 12th and 13th respectively. Only one change in the lower half of the table, in fact. Genoa go above Roma after winning at Ascoli. Verona now 3 points clear of the bottom 4 by beating Inter. Inter have dropped down to 8th, though they are one of 10 clubs in contention in the quest to qualify for next season's UEFA Cup. It looks particularly promising for Parma, who have moved up to 4th. Milan's hopes of returning to the European Cup still looking very good indeed after their showdown with Juventus ended in that 1-1 draw. When Marco van Basten struck so early in the match, it did look as though the championship would be virtually theirs, even with 14 matches still to play. But though they remain outsiders, Juventus are still in contention, thanks to a classic of a goal from Pierluigi Casiraghi.